Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Occupied Home, our very first episode with myself, Tracey McLeod from Presentation Cells, and of course, my co-host.
Hey, I'm Bobbie McGrath with Successful Staging out of Raleigh, North Carolina, USA.
And we have the most amazing guest today. Welcome, Barb Schwarz, the inventor of home staging.
Yeah. Hello. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you so much.
Well, Barb, I got to tell you, Tracey and I, we did a podcast, well, we stopped a couple years ago, but we did it for 3 or 4 years, and we talked across the ocean and everything, and we wanted to reboot and really focus in on the occupied home. And so we were like putting our heads together, who would be the perfect number one guest? And of course, we thought of you because you are the number one stager. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. I love you both, and I'm very excited to hear your great questions and to visit together and share.
Perfect.
And Barb, we looked at an early video of yours that's on YouTube via your website at barbschwarz.com, and it was such good information. So would you like to tell us about your journey with home staging and where you started, how it came to be?
Well, it'd be my pleasure. And as I look back at this, we all have such a really important purpose, I think, being right here on Earth, on our planet. And finding our purpose is really important. And some people may feel like, oh, I don't have a purpose. They'll think that about themselves, or I don't know what my purpose is. Well, keep asking and don't push it. Just allow it to come through you. In a way, we are the messengers, and then the message comes through. And I really believe, I know this was a gift from God that came to me. And as I look back at my life, everything I did led to that very moment where the idea for home staging came to me. And as a little girl, just real quick, I clipped a lot of pictures out of magazines. Even when I was 3, 4, 5, I was changing all the furniture in my grandparents' home. And then as time went on, in junior high school, I took home ec classes and home economics. And I also thought I'd be Barbra Streisand. But then later I found out she was taken. Anyway, as I really loved singing, and then later in college performed in a lot of musicals and plays and operas and operettas, and so I have 3 degrees, one in design, one in education, and one in music. Now, as a professional speaker and trainer, author, the titles that many of us have, training in music helped me perform, and then design after teaching school for 5 years, and the education. And so all of those came together when I was going out to knock on the doors of real estate brokers for the Children's Orthopedic Hospital in Seattle. And my career at that time was a design business. And the broker said, "What are you doing? And you're not in real estate." And I said, "Well, I serve a lot of people." "No, you're procrastinating. You need to go out there and get your license. We need you in the real estate industry." And what he said, one sentence basically changed my life. And I thought, well, I could get the license, I think. So I called and I took the test, passed it, thank you, the first time, and started to have people ask me to list houses where I would go for my design business. And so then when I would go to the houses, I was just shocked the way they looked. And for about 1.5 years, I didn't do real well in the business. I did make money working with purchasers and buyers, but I basically had overpriced homes that were just cluttered to pieces. And here I, have this degree in this business, but I would say I'd like to decorate your home, for selling. Decorate? Why should we do that? Oh my gosh, we don't want to pay for that. Why, we're selling. And then I used the word design. That's expensive. We don't want to do that. And so on my actual birthday, I got this call to go see a house. And when I went to the house, it had been on the market, ladies, for about 2 years. And 2 of the companies had gone out of business.
Wow.
even if you sell it. It was pretty much a disaster inside. It was a very smaller home, very small home. There were 3 bedrooms and a bath in the hall and a half bath out by their area they called their family area, which was a garage that had been turned into a family room,
Mhm.
and a small kitchen and a living room with a dining L. We've all been to those. And so as I'm visiting with her, nothing's working. And all of a sudden, it just came to me out of the blue. I did not plan this ahead of time, but out of my mouth and lips came the words, "Do you like the theater?" "The theater? What's that got to do with selling my house?" And I said, "Well, in the theater, because I've performed some in a number of musicals and plays, etc., there's a director, and I'd like to be the director for you in arranging your home." And well, we set the stage in the theater. And so then I said, and I thought, there are critics just like the theater. But so as this is all happening in the moment, and I said, "Oh, and you're the star." "I am?" I said, "Yes, because you live here." Oh, she loved that. And your house is like the set. And so between acts, why we always set the scene for the act coming up. And there, are different purposes for each room in your home. Let's say the dining room, the act there would be eating. The audience, they're the buyers, and they decide how many offers come in. So I would love to set the scene and set the stage with you in every room. Let's just do this one and see what you think. And she was like, "Okay, I guess." Well, she really liked it. And that led to the first home that I ever staged using the word, "I'm staging your house." We're setting the scene, setting the stage. And that house sold the first week after sitting there all that time. And then I thought
Yeah.
that night, that night I told friends at dinner and my husband, I said, something happened today that just seemed like it was meant to be. And it turned out to really work. And it feels good to me. It was almost like a gift, what
There
came
you
to
go.
me. And so I'm going to give it a go on the next house I see. Well, the next one had Disneyland posters. So I said, Disneyland is staged. And they knew exactly what I meant then
Sure.
because they had posters. They wanted to go to Disneyland. They had on the refrigerator in the kids' bedrooms. And then that house sold. And then the next one, I used Hollywood because the teenagers had all these Hollywood posters. And so I said, they can set the scene in the movie to be really messy or really clean and neat. And so they got that concept. And then agents started to say, "How'd you get these 3 listings in a row that were so good?" And I said, "You should have seen them when I got them." "And what'd you do?" So I shared a little, and they said, "Oh, we couldn't do that. We would never do that. Oh, people would probably kick us out of the house." And for years, no other realtors would listen to me, literally years. And it was through sellers telling
Mhm.
other sellers that it started to spread. And so that's really how it started. I worked to fine tune all that for 14 years before I ever gave a talk. People don't know that or how would they realize that? Because I started, it's just the way I was made apparently, to really observe what I said and how people responded. And if it didn't work, I changed it, even if it was one word or sentences. I wrote down all the what people call objections that I don't like that word. I use the word concerns. I have a Barb vocabulary that I teach and share because I really found that some words don't work. By doing that for 14 years, by the time that I was asked to give a talk, I fine tuned it, and all that research of all those years, I have booklets of all the notes I made. And it's really up to us to observe ourselves and then change what we're doing. Because let me tell you, everybody listening, you can't change them. The only person you can
Right.
change is yourself.
Barb, thank you for that. One of the reasons I was excited about talking with you is because I was realizing, there are people who would like do stuff to get ready to sell their house. Might do something that I call the mother-in-law tidy. They might clean up the house a little bit, but that's about it. But what I loved was I was thinking, I hear stagers all the time who will come forward and say, "Nobody knows what staging is. Nobody will hire me, and nobody this and nobody that." And I'm thinking to myself, what would you do if you were using words and talking about a system that nobody anywhere had really heard about, and you actually systematized it and gave people the words to use? I mean, so what I wanted to ask you was, you just said it took 14 years before you were asked to speak on the topic. But
Mhm.
during those 14 years, I'm wondering, I love how you said, I wrote it down, that the sellers were the ones who spread the words. It wasn't the other agents. It wasn't your success. It was the sellers that spread. So my question to you is, what do you think was the breaking point where other agents finally went, I want the success she has? What did it take? And did you
Well,
train agents first? Did you train stagers first? I've always wanted to ask.
oh,
Love you.
as a professional speaker, but as a realtor, as a mother stager, because I was the only stager in the world for 14 years. There were no others, and nobody wanted to call themselves that. I talked to other designers and decorators that I had known in the industry, wasn't paying any attention. It was other realtors and the company owners that first started saying to me, we would like for you to give a talk in the office. What are you doing? Because the revenue of the company was going up. As the number one producer, they were paying attention. Thank you for the production universe that came through. And he said, I'd really like you to tell the people what the heck you're doing. And so, like, I had 6 people that wanted to hear. And then another owner, because they started to have open up other offices, had me come. And then there were 25. And then one day, several offices got together that was a different company. And then there were like 150 agents that came. And word started to spread. And then it started to spread through the board of realtors, for example, from Seattle down to San Jose, California. And so they wanted me to come and talk, and 200 people showed up. And so I decided, okay, what I'm going to do is to start speaking to real estate agents around the country about how to introduce the concept to sellers of preparing their homes for sale, which staging the home was the brand that I, founded and has worked. And so I did not teach them how to stage, because I call our gut or intuition, I call it my inner knower or inner intelligence. We all have that link with the divine, whatever you want to call it. And that could be for many of us God, it could be the universe for many of us, it could be mustard seed, whatever you want, but we're all a part of a much bigger picture. And, it's beyond comprehension in many ways. And so as I did that, I thought I'm going to take it to the agents to share with the seller. You need to stage your home. Here's what staging is. It means you go through and you must declutter and get it clean and simple things like that. But the agents I knew didn't want to do the actual staging, and most didn't. And at the same time, I knew the time was coming when I would start to found an industry called the home staging industry, which I did. And that came at a little bit later date, because my first was to get the word throughout the carriers of the message. And so I taught over 1 million realtors by being on live a city a day, 40 weeks a year on the road. So many people in the business have no idea the background of how all this, because they didn't, how could they know if they
Right.
haven't, they haven't known. So I appreciate you so much asking the question. And
So,
so anyway, then I started to write my stager courses and to give them.
so this is what I heard you say. You just did it because you felt that it was the right thing to do, and it seemed like the obvious thing, and you were figuring out a system that worked. And I love how you would try out words and things, and what worked, what didn't, and you were
Oh yeah,
tweaking. And it was the sellers who were satisfied that were telling other people about you. So you
right,
were getting
right,
more listings. And
right,
then because you were getting listings that did well, the other agents set up and listened, and they started
right,
thinking, what is she doing? And then the next level of agents said, okay, we need all of our agents to produce like her. Hey, lady, come here. What you been doing? Tell everybody how to do this. And the word spread, right? Over 1 million agents. Holy
well,
cow.
Oh, exactly. And that's documented with the promoters that took me out on the road. So it wasn't the other agents. It was the company owners that were business people that said, whatever she's doing and whatever she calls it, or I want my agents to hear about it. But I would say only 10% of them would even talk to the sellers about it. They
That's
lived in
right.
fear constantly, constant fear, fear. And so then when after sharing with 6 people and then 25 and then the numbers that I was sharing, and when I went to San Jose, I said I'm going to start to put on my own programs. And so then promoters of other real estate speakers who did not know me but were hearing about me from boards of realtors, then they started selling tickets in cities to come and hear me, and agents started showing up because I had a full day, how to list and sell residential real estate successfully. I say that humbly. It worked. And I didn't just talk about staging. That was just the last hour of the 8-hour day. So I talked about marketing oneself and giving a powerful listing presentation and how to price homes and how to market and sell homes. And then the last hour of that day was my concept of staging. And I did that 40 weeks a year, a city a day, and reaching through. I mean, some of the crowds were 2,000 people and counting. And that went on for a number of years. And then the crowds would go to 500 or 250. And I said, my inner Nora was saying, it's time to write courses and give them, which were the very first in the industry. There was no industry except what I built at that time, which grew and grew and grew, thank God. And that's been my life. And so as the first internet site I introduced, there was no other educational internet site. There was no other staging association. I opened up the educational school and the sites, the International Association, the Worldwide Staging Service Week I founded, and now Worldwide Staging Day, many things all at once. And it was all, just drip. A few people would come and then more and then more. And so it's 50 years since all that started, and that's going to be January 9th. So won't take other people that long, of course, because I wrote a show for home for HGTV. I'll never forget, in 1999. I had it all written, and I sent it to them. You'll get a kick out of this. And so I got this letter back. I still have it, that said, we at HGTV had a producers meeting, and we do not feel that anyone would ever, they stress the ever, look at a show about what you call staging to get a home ready for sale.
Wow.
And so they turned it down. That was the first one.
You know what I love, Barb, about what you're saying too is when you first introduced the concept, the first thing I noticed about what you were saying was the depth at which you had this idea formed, which you hadn't realized until that moment. But when you started talking about each room is an act, and therefore people could understand that in this room, in the dining room, the act is eating. And, in the bedroom, the act is sleeping. And so you were then able to create that stage around the act of what people normally do in that room. And to me, there's a depth and a brilliance to that is, I can't imagine having ever, just walked into something and started talking at that level. And I think the other thing, just it seems to me from what you were saying too, that the other side of home staging, which seems to get lost in the conversation, is wordsmithing. And I know Bobbie is huge on the words that you use, but you have just proven too that the words that stagers use, that real estate agents use, are so important when you're talking to home sellers.
I really appreciate what you just shared, and it's the honest to God truth, may I say. The reason people don't succeed, in my view, because a large part of what I'm possessed with staging. This was my purpose and mission for being on this planet, and I know that with all my heart. Someone could scoff at that or make fun of it, that's about them, not me. I know this is why I'm here. I died on the operating table during open heart surgery, and they brought me back. And I'll tell you, I'm not afraid of death. Nobody should be, because it on the other side is quite another experience. And I didn't want to come back. It's just so beyond human words. And in my courses, because as I speak and teach, it's to me, staging's about love. It is love. And I went to a banker and talked with a whole big group with a fancy bank in New York about a credit card to pay for staging without interest until the property's sold. And when I talked about that with them, and I thought, because I'm me, I'm going to be me wherever I am. And I said, it's really about love. And this big banker CEO leans over and he said, "You really mean that, don't you?" And I said, I do. And he said, "I know exactly what you mean." And I thought, wow, because he could have just scoffed at it or whatever. Why do I say the word love? Well, the home should be about love. If people don't love each other in the home, then they're with people that they maybe shouldn't be with. And what do sellers say? "Oh, I love what you did. How come I didn't think of it?" That's what they say. They use the word love. Buyers say, "Oh, this is the house I love so much." And agents go, "Oh, I love what you did," because they're going to make more money. And so the word love is used all the time, but so many stagers and agents are afraid to use the word love. Holy cow, that's the reason we're all on this planet, is to learn how to love and to be loved and to spread love everywhere and to do our purpose, to carry it out and to listen to it and stay out of the darn, what I call, box of fear. Because in there is where the stress lives. Out of the box, there is no stress. Out of the box, love is not in the box. Staging shouldn't be in a box. No, creativity isn't in the box. That is stress. That is FBAR, false evidence appearing real. And so out of the box is where the peace is, the love is, the joy is, the creativity. And everyone has creativity, even if they think they don't. Well, you're living and breathing, and it sure takes a lot of creativity on the inside of you for that to take place. So it's really, really about listening to what we say, hearing what we say, looking and observing what the others are saying, responding, their body language, everything, because they're giving messages back. And it's really, really true. The number one person we should observe is ourselves. Because when you do make notes, well, that didn't go so well. I said this word and blah, blah. Because without writing it down, we all forget it. Maybe we remember one, but we forget it. Out of sight is out of mind. So I keep a log. I would write it when the red light was at the stoplight. Boom, I just write it down, not when it was green. But it's to do that. And that log that I've kept through the years, because I still observe everywhere I go. It's really about the words. This whole vocabulary I have really changed my life. And I've been told by a number of others that it's changed theirs. And so, I'm here to really share with people what to do.
Well, what I'm hearing is that there's tenacity that's needed to be a good stager, and good communication skills, and being able, like, putting together a system that you can repeat each time. But I'm just wondering, I've always wanted to ask you this question: is there like a personality type, or is there some core value or something that is really a great foundation for someone who wants to get into staging? Is there one thing that you've seen through the years where you go, they'd make a great stager? Anything along those lines?
Each of you have fabulous questions, and education is key, because whether we get the business or not, should I say it that way, it's about how we communicate and how we educate. And so teachers, I find, can be really great stagers because they teach. Nurses, I found, for the same reason, and others as well. And it doesn't mean that they need to fit in those two occupations to become a great stager. Secretaries, many times, receptionists, it's about integrity, honesty, caring about other people, really caring about them. And the communication really needs to come from that inner knower, that source inside. Of course, we use our brains, and that's very important, of course. Say this with all my being: the money takes care of itself when we take care of others. People can tell many times they read us like books. They really do.
Sure.
And they can tell if we're really being sincere. It's about service and caring. And of course, it takes hard work, and we want to have fun. And I want my clients to have fun. And I praise them so much. It's so important. And so your question, so well founded. It's honesty, integrity, care, love. I actually say to my clients, I actually say to them before they're even my clients, I even say it on the phone. We need to take care of the people. A dear person I trained in my master course, her first name is Tempe, said to me, she said, Barb, the biggest gift I got was how you convey the information with people so they're never upset. They don't get offended. They understand. It's the communication that, she says, what has really built my business. And I like, that's wonderful. Thank you. However, you're carrying it out there. And that's what's so wonderful, because that's what we all need to do.
Tracey, I'm jumping all over. Jump in if you have got a question, because you know me, I got a million. If you've got a question, go ahead, because I've got more too.
Go on, Bobbie, you go, and then I'll go. Okay.
Okay. So I'm listening to you, and you're talking about relationships and being honorable, integrity, and all those things. 100% am totally with you. Now, my question is this, and this might be kind of a strange question, but what I've discovered is working with agents, that there are some agents that I've had 15, 16, 17-year business relationships with them, and we really collaborate together to serve the clients. But there just comes a time sometime where I think maybe I've hung around working with an agent too long. Is there like signs when we know we should cut bait and move on with an agent? Because I always want to support them, but there are times where I don't feel like we're, I'll say, evenly yoked. So are there any like telltale signs about, or if we go to market to agents, and is there a time that we should know they're just not our agent, move on? Is there like a sign or anything that you've seen through the years? Because I love that you're an agent too, because then you look behind that curtain and you can share that with us. So any warning signs or things?
Oh gosh, I've trained so many agents, worked with so many agents. I love real estate agents. I love stagers, and each needs to better appreciate the other, walk in the other moccasins. I would say your question is well founded, and the answer, all that you seek is within you. All that you seek is within you, because you're asking the question because something's prompting you underneath that question to ask it.
Sure.
And a name is coming up to you, or more than one.
Oh, Barb, you read my mind. It's true. It's true.
It's really true. That may be because you're ready to move on. It may be that that's one. The other may be that it's time to have a sit down, come to meeting, truth to truth, and an open discussion with them, because it really comes down to how you feel about the integrity, the honesty, the other person, and how you're fitting. Everybody changes, as we all know. The body changes every 6 years. We get a new body, 6 or 7 years. We're changing as we're sitting here and talking. The body's changing. And so the same can happen and does happen with relationships. And sitting down and sharing the honest feelings, both of you together, will either it'll move on or it won't, because it will become so obvious talking together. That's what I recommend you do.
And that's great marriage advice. So tune in next week when Barb Schwarz does marriage counseling, because that's good advice for marriages too. I'm just saying.
It's true.
So
it's really true.
It's true. I'm listening to you. So that's really good. It goes back to communication, just like you said at the beginning.
Yeah. And it can feel to the human in us, oh, that's kind of scary, or what's going to come out. It's really I talk to myself, stay out of that box and come from your spirit. Bobbie and Tracey and Bobbie, come, and everyone listening, come from your spirit of truth and the creativity and the positiveness you have inside. and leave the rest outside. And people, the other person can really feel what you're sharing.
Good
And
point.
should they not open themselves up to that, then the decision becomes extremely clear because
Yeah.
that's really what I recommend that they do as well. And they may choose not to.
And transparency, I think, helps everybody, right? If we're just transparent and it's straight up, then you can see them at a real estate mixer. And instead of that awkward moment, you can truly go say hello.
So, Barb, you're mother stager. You are the person who invented home staging, and we are celebrating an anniversary of that. We're celebrating your birthday, and we're celebrating World Home Staging Day for the first time this week. Can you tell us more about that?
I can't. Wow. Really? But I'm saying really to myself. Right. On the 9th, it's the 50-year anniversary. And, you know, I said this already once, but I believe God knows all of our hearts. And God knows my heart is really clean and full of love about this. This has nothing to do with my birthday except the fact that's the day. So I have had people ask me for a number of years, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, different people, email and say, there's Secretary Day and there's Nurses Day. How come we don't have a staging day? And that's, as the leader and the inventor of the industry. And so I thought, the time's going to come. The time's going to come. And I really felt that this was the time. Worldwide Staging Day. From my eyes and mouth to your eyes and ears, and my heart to yours, is for the stagers to have a day to celebrate their creativity, their talent, their business, whether they're brand new or have been staging for, 12 years or any number, anywhere and everywhere around the planet. And to perhaps celebrate their clients. I wrote a document. It's about 6 pages long. When I say document, it's a Word. Well, I guess that's why I said document, Word document that I put on my personal site, barbschwarz.com, of ideas of how to celebrate. And they could have a party for their clients, or they could have a party for the vendors or the sponsors in the area. I want real estate agents to participate and to say to their sellers, it's Worldwide Staging Day, and you were so smart, Mr. Seller, to have your home staged by Bobbie, for example. And I believe the title people and the mortgage people and the appraisers and the inspectors, there's no limit to it, because look at all of the businesses and companies that have benefited from staging. Home Depot benefits from staging. Lowe's benefits. I did a document research one year. It was like in the billions what staging has brought to many companies. And so that needs to be celebrated all over the world. And I'm really excited about those agents that know that that's a great idea, about the stagers that are celebrating, because bringing us together. And I really think it's a great thing to bring all the associations together so they are celebrating on a designated day that is Staging Day every January 9th. It's really about celebration. So I quickly say that Russia got a hold of me, and Russia is having a day, that day, of celebration and event. Portugal got a hold of me. They're doing the same. Poland got a hold of me. They're on the same date, January 9th, each doing their own thing to celebrate. And Spain has some ideas. I know that through iHosp Europe that, there are individuals that are participating, and the association put it on their website for the public as well as for their members about sharing. And so there's nothing to fear. It's everybody to benefit and to share together. And people don't know what you don't tell them. And I teach that all the time. That's why communication, people don't know what you don't tell them. So I wrote on that document, associations, celebrate your members on that day. Do something for them on that day. And so it's really interesting to see how people and associations, because I've always said stagers and associations, and I've listed the other careers as well, how they choose to participate or not, and that's up to everybody. So I'm excited about it.
Fantastic.
So,
Yeah.
so 50 years from throwing off a flippant response, thinking, kind of like, well, home, like staging, from that to now, what has been like the arc? What have you seen, like when you first started doing that and you started coming up with the words and you started coming up with the techniques, and then you started talking about it, then you started training about it, then you got specific about it. What's been like what's been the biggest thing that you've been excited about through this 50 years? What's the thing that you just go, yes, what is it? Yeah.
There isn't one thing. I strive. We can all do this, to be a laser beam in what I'm doing. And I
Okay.
see a line ahead of me, and there isn't one thing on the line, at least for me, that stands up more than the other. Because if I took one thing out of the line,
Mhm.
then it wouldn't be the same. And
That's
so
right.
even back to when I was 3 years old is on that line, and then the home economics in high school, and a major in college, and performing in the musicals, and having a design degree. And staging is not design. I couldn't get
Yeah.
them to listen.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
totally two different things.
Right.
Designing is to personalize a property. Staging is to DE personalize the property, because we want to create that environment so the buyer can mentally move in. And so getting it out into the real estate industry, because they started to talk about it, even though I knew they didn't want to stage. That's not who should be doing the staging. And
Right.
from their view, and then starting the staging courses and the association and all of that. And of course, there was TV and magazines and radio, everything. And what we're doing together, the three of us today, is right there. That is so important to me. The questions that you've asked, the answers that you are kindly encouraging and supporting and listening to, it's all crucial. It's so good. You are so important for my message and carrying this out. I don't even know that the two of you can really feel that. I'm looking at you saying you are really important to Worldwide Staging Day and to staging the industry and real estate agents and all the others. Every single step. And I say that with my entire being. And every single thing is really crucial. I mean that from my soul, because that's what we live on. All we have is the now. That's all we've got right now.
And I love that, Barb, because I'm thinking it's the things you also talk about, embracing the things that didn't work, because if it didn't work, you tweaked things. So I think that's a really positive message to put out there, because people seem to think it has to be a road of successes to move forward. But really, oftentimes, it's the mistakes, it's the failures, it's the bumps along the road that makes us stronger, wiser, and better to do what it is that we're asked to do. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome, dear heart. I really do not believe in the word failure. There is no failure. And so people say, well, I failed at that, or they'll say about themselves. No, 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 no. Okay, life is a series of experiences.
Mhm.
And in every experience, my post about New Year's was about this. There are lessons and things to learn every single experience. Now, what do we learn the most from? We learn from the mistakes we make. So to
Yes.
me, there are opportunity lessons. And the
Hmm.
key is not to beat oneself up, because I used to do that way, way back. I would use a baseball bat, figuratively speaking, beat myself up in the car, blah, 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 blah. That's way back,
Hmm.
because it's observing and learning, and for me at least, writing down the note right then, and then immediately applying that.
Good.
So observing the experience, how did that go? What did I learn from it? What will I change? And I will apply it immediately with the next client, whether it's a realtor or a seller. And having that, I still do that to this very day. Every conversation, every in the elevator, every eating lunch with someone, it's all there. And I notice how many people say if, how many can't, fear, I'm afraid of this. There's just all these words that are out there that I love to keep teaching the planet.
Good. Keep it up. The message needs to be heard. Tracey, I did it again. I'm sorry. What was your question? I did it again. Sorry.
No, not at all, Bobbie. Barb, I was wondering about, you talked about being the only person, and I know Bobbie and I have heard this from other people too, being the only person in an area staging. And so how would you recommend? What are your top 3 ways that home stagers can start getting the word out about home staging in their areas, do you feel?
Well, number one is get out of your house, get in the street, and start talking to people. My first client, uh, as a stager, was talking with the pharmacist about filling my prescription, a woman. And I happened to say something about I had just staged a house. Of course, people say, "What's that?" I've heard more of "What's that" in my life than anyone on this planet. But the self, the ego goes, "Oh, I'm so tired of hearing that." Are you kidding? It's a gift. And I'm thinking, oh, I get to be the one that educates her. Seriously, that to me is a present. What if they never said, "What's that?" Well, where would you be without "What's that?" I mean, it's fabulous. So I explained a little to her. There were people waiting. I explained it. And I said, "You have a property you're thinking of selling?" I could say that very quickly. And she says, "Actually, I am." And I said, "Oh, I'd love to share more with you about that." And I gave her my card and I said, would it be permissible for me to call you here? And she said, "Well, here's my cell." And she writes down the cell. That led to my very first staging. If she hadn't said, "What's that?" it may not have happened.
That's
And
right.
so all those "what that's" took me a lot of places. So that's number one. Number two, I give a lot of business to the same business over and over and over again. And I developed something I call my career book. I have a federally registered trademark on that in numerous countries. And I've taught that through the years. And I have my credentials and pictures of clients and all of that. That's where I put it because it's about my career. And I've taught that concept in my courses. And so I thought I'm going to be sharing that with people so that they know when I'm giving them the business what I do. So of course I ask, I have this. Now I've been taking all my photographs and pictures to be framed to this one framer, Colette, who is very good. And I gave her several, projects in a row. And the first time, gave her my name and number. And the next time I left a card. And then the third time I brought it and I left it with her. It's like, I know she's going to look at it. Why? Because people are nosy. Absolutely. So the next thing I know, she's calling me and starts to send me clients for staging. You've got to get out of your house and go talk to people, mask included, because they've got a mask too. And someday the masks will go bye-bye. We work with that. And so it's really to talk, meet, and to 8 new contacts a day. And when we're sitting at home and going, nobody wants staging and nobody believes, then you're really causing yourself to be at a real dis-ease. So that's how we get in a new habit. And so anyway, that's what it's all about, is contact. And don't let anybody get you down. You must believe. The 12 things I wrote on my latest post, number 1 is believe in yourself. And all 12 of those are exactly what I would say to anybody that wants more business, wants to feel better in their business, been in business for 18 years or brand new, because we get into ruts, we get into habits as human beings. And it's time to shed some of those habits and get back to really feeling new again.
Right. That's great. Thank you.
The business is there. It is.
True.
Do you believe what I just said, Tracey?
Absolutely. I believe everything that you said, Barb, and I like your process of 8 new contacts a day. That, that's marvelous. So I'm really excited by everything you've shared today.
Well, thank you, love. I hope you don't mind my asking. I ask as an example because I'll share things with someone that I'll meet. I'm talking about someone that's becoming, a new stager, and that you helped me give that example. Thank you, because I can tell how they reply to that, whether they really do or whether they really don't. And it's it's inside really believing in ourselves. Become possessed with staging. Be a laser beam. Don't let anything get in your way. Think of your mission. Think of your purpose. And think of service for others. And really be happy and excited, because people love to be around that. And it doesn't mean we all have to go, doesn't mean that. In our own way, we can be very quiet and also very enthusiastic. Some of us, can be considered more extroverts and some more introverts. I've trained many stagers that are more they would call themselves an introvert, and yet they have that light that shines, and they're honest and they're sincere, and it comes from their heart, and people love them. So whether we're really singing from the rooftops, they're very quiet. Either way, be who you are and let people know about you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Wonderful for everyone. So do you have any more questions, Bobbie, or do you have anything else you would like to comment on, Barb, before we say goodbye?
Well, angels first. I call all of us angels on earth. Bobbie, you have anything else you want to ask, honey?
Well, you know what? Okay, this is a weird question, but that's okay. I figure now I know you. I feel like I know you.
Oh, honey, nothing's weird. That's impossible.
Okay. So when I told Tracey I wanted to ask this question, I think she laughed at me a little bit. What is the strangest thing you've ever used to stage a house? And with all the trainings and everything you've done, I would think that you've seen it all.
I have seen it all, and that's for sure. So it wasn't the strangest thing I ever saw, but the strangest thing I've ever used. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, pretty much, dear heart, the world is my oyster and yours too. So anything that's there that I feel, the staging is a feeling also.
Sure.
I feel that would be good. I mean, I took in a real tall giraffe, not a live one, but a real, it was probably about 8 feet. And I put that in a shower in a powder bath. And people got such a kick out of that.
Yeah.
I brand every one of my stagings with a little something that I won't share, because it's kind of like Kincaid as an artist. He always has a little thing. I have a little thing, and then agents get onto it and they go, Barb, stage this, because
there you go.
I really love that. My normal things, which can be strange to other people, is I take rope and a pair of clippers, which is for outside bushes and plants. And I don't go anywhere without those. I have to have my rope and my clippers, as well as other gear, of course, that we take. But those two are really crucial to me. And I really want black, white, and green in every room in some form. And it doesn't have to be a large amount. You see, the key is that when you think of the spectrum of color, I'll put it on a line, the spectrum and the tonalities and all that. Truthfully, on one end is white and the other end is black. And yes, we have gray and we have opaque and we have all the shades and tones and all that. However, black and white. And when you come to the middle of the line, green is in the middle. And all of the other colors are surrounded by black, white, with green in the middle. And so green to me stands for prosperity, for health, for money, for life. And it could be green linen napkins on the dining room table, for example. It could be an arrangement that I arranged with my clippers and the greenery I cut outside, because that lasts a lot longer than flowers with water. And I always go back to fine tune my houses I stage, because agents can move things or buyers can move things.
Yeah, it's true.
Not every day. I do like, and I want someone to make sure that water, but if it's a big vase and there's stalks of greenery with the trunk showing, which I love, that is representing, everything I just talked about. And then a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Now their table could have, black, be a black little end table that was painted fine. White could be, also a linen, or it could be a pitcher in the kitchen that's white that we put something in it to stage. Whatever it is, for sure I have to have black, white, and green, because that wasn't the goal of many of those pictures. Some of the advertisers that I see It's very gray and black. And I love black. I love grays. I do. But there's no life. It looks
That's right.
more like death to me. And it's similar to a cellar that has a big pot on the front porch, and it's cold now. The geraniums have died and other things. And it's just, I would say to my sellers, after I really get to know them, is that this is saying, don't come in. We want them feeling alive, and only as I build the relationship. So those are things that I have to have: black, white, and green in every room. And I want plenty of other colors when it's appropriate, of course, and sometimes more neutrals, and then
There you
my
go.
covers and my rope, and the giraffe I'm not staging with these days, but he went to a good home.
There you go. That's good. That's
How
good.
do you use the rope, Barb?
Oh, the rope. Oh, I love my rope. Okay, I have different dimensions of rope. I have big, hairy rope. Okay, I have black rope. You can buy it. You can buy rope in hot pink. You can buy rope. I get it on Amazon. You can get it easily there. Anyway, the rope. Then I'll have twine, and then I have white rope that's in between, and whatever's appropriate. So I'm going to give you some of my Barb staging. You know what I'm saying? An example. I see the room in my head right now. This is a teenage boy's, probably 14, bedroom. So one of the spaces that because it's a lived-in home, is to look in the garage and see what I can find, as well as the linen closets, everywhere, kitchen cupboards. I go through every single thing. And when I take stagers to a house and they don't look in every cupboard, then we have a talk, because there's magic in there, and there's maybe a shed in the backyard that can have some gold in there. So setting that part of the story aside, one thing I noticed, which was real important to me, was they had a lot of fishing equipment. So in the garage, so I thought, I have the theme for this room. So in the linen closets, I found 2 white, I believe they were queen size sheets that weren't being used. Now, I don't have a curtain rod, but I'm not going to go buy one, because how fun is that? So I take the fishing rod, and I left up the brackets, and I put the fishing rod on top of the brackets. So now I have a curtain rod, and I put the end, because I'm very selective on which end goes where, that kind of thing, on the end that looked the best. Now that I have secured that with my rope, because I took the hairy rope and I went around as a brown rope that they would use when they were sailing down, a stream or a river, and I around the brackets with the rod on top, then I secured it.
Sure.
I took the sheet, each one, I whooped them over the top so that I had more in the front, but I gathered them and I put rope around each one. Then I took hooks that I carry and put those in the walls, because I have that in writing that I can do that kind of thing. And then I hooked the rope on the hook. So now the window's taken care of, and it looked really cool. Now the bed, I decided the position I didn't like. I moved it from the corner, which would be the end that was on the right side of the curtain wall. So I angled it out at a corner, because it opens up more space for the room. And now they're seeing this, but I wanted to have some kind of headboard. They had a door that had been kind of bashed in on the bottom out in the garage. So I got the door. It stood up tall enough. It must have been some kind of door used for not like your front door or something. And I propped that behind the bed. I pushed the bed against it. Then I had pillows that I put up against it. I took rope and went round the door and put which couldn't be seen behind the pillows, and I put hooks in the walls on each side of the corner, and then that held the door up. And it was a very light door. It wasn't a full solid door. There were no other bedspreads, but I said, okay, I'm going to look at the other side. I flipped it over. Oh, I like this color. This works. This is better than the other. So I found colored sheets in the linen closet. I put colored sheets on, it was kind of an orange, it worked, on the bottom. And then I had a kind of a turquoise that worked with the orange on the top sheet. I laid it back, and so now we have the lay back with a bedspread folded under a couple of times at the top, with the pillows standing there with the appropriate cases on them. And I found some pillows in the family room I could use as toss. So now where I am is this dresser. Well, I love Harry's wood refinisher. You can just carry a can of it, and with a Q-tip, you can just, it's a one step. And if they don't have Harry's, they have some other brand. And so I just took the Q-tip, I marked this, put it over the scratches, they disappear, and it dries almost in an instant, and you can't rub it off. So now that's looking better. Now I went into what they called their family area, and I found fishing books, and I thought, oh, I'm going to use those. Then I found a fishing box. So I put the fishing box on the top at an angle of the dresser, and I opened it up, cleaned that whole thing out, put the books in it, and took off the covers because I don't like covers. Sometimes people read the covers and not look at the room. So I strategically had the colors that worked with the bed. So now that we have a curtain rod, curtains, we've got the bed with a headboard, posters I found on fishing. I found some fabric as a pillowcase that I ironed that had a fishing theme to it. I never found a set, but I found that. And I put a pillow inside of that and pinned it over the back. I also carry the Velcro that is sticky on both sides. So I stuck it on both sides of the pillowcase when it went over, and that keeps it tight and it doesn't hurt it because it's going to be removed later. So now, bada bing, the whole room staged, and I found a rug I thought that was appropriate to go around the area of the bed.
So rope can set you free and turn you loose, it sounds like.
And I cut greenery, I left that up, without, with the clippers. And you can put that in a big vase and small one.
That's fun. I know I get involved in rooms that I've done, and you get so into the whole creativity, just like you were talking about earlier. We get into the creativity, and I think that's one of the things I really encourage stagers to look at is it doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be marketable. It needs to be better than when you went in there. So it's the creativity, I think, that people really look to a good stager for. So that's great.
And I think that everything you've said to us today, Barb, has layers. And that is really the secret of great communication, which is coming back to where we started, because you've just given us such detail, such depth, such understanding of how and where you started, just in one room. As Bobbie said, I was there with you too.
I just wanted to refer back to the video that you shared from your barbschwarz.com site, your first staging video. I was looking at that and I thought, isn't it fascinating to see, here you were at the burgeoning part of an industry, and you were sharing these concepts, they're foundational concepts. So I was looking at it thinking to myself, isn't it funny? Truth is truth is truth. And understanding that and building on that foundation is key. So I just love that I had the opportunity to watch it.
Staging, the basics don't change. They really don't. Furniture style changes, color changes, accessory styles change, etc. This house had better be clean, clutter-free, rearranged, many times inventory brought in, other furniture taken out. Those are basic, real principles because we want to market the space by setting the correct scene to the buyer.
Perfect.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And how do people get in touch with you, Barb?
Oh, I really appreciate that. Well, they can go to barbschwarz.com, and it's BARBSCHWARZ. There's no T in my name, .com. And so right there is how to contact me, and I will answer their question or their contact. And on Facebook is another way. You belong to Facebook, message me because I'm right there. That's another way.
There you go.
You can ask me anything. You can show me anything. Tell me anything. Friendships are really important to me, and I really treasure both of you. I really do, and I hope you'll come see me in Hawaii.
Well, boy, you just never know. That's been Tracey's goal for us to go to Hawaii. It's halfway between here and Australia. Tracey and I both want to say happy birthday to you, too, to be one of the first ones for January 9th.
Oh, you are the first. Thank you.
And all I've got to celebrate is a box of tissues with
Oh, I love that. So cute and precious. I could stage with that. I love that. Look at that.
There you go. Yes, indeed.
Oh, kangaroos are so precious. Well, both of you live in very special places, and I really, really, really treasure each of you, and I'm so happy to get to know you, each of you. And anytime you need me for anything, you let me know. And you're the first birthday wishes. Thank you.
You bet. You bet. So
happy birthday. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.